Hi everyone, I'm your host Maurice, and welcome to the Lifetimes Podcast, the podcast where we explore the different stories, life lessons, and experiences of Filipinos navigating through life and adulthood in a foreign society. Thank you so much for joining us in this 6th episode of the podcast. And if you haven't yet, I encourage everyone to give us a follow on Instagram and to subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform that you're using, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. And in the future, I'm hoping to actually upload some of the episodes as audiograms on YouTube. So in case anyone wants to listen to the show via YouTube, I know quite a couple people who kind of wanted to use YouTube instead of Spotify or the other apps. So if that's up your alley, watch out for it. More updates will come on the Instagram page. So for today's episode, we got another guest for everyone here. I've known her for about 10 years, I would say, 10, 11 years. So we don't really talk seriously. So it's going to be quite interesting how the conversation will go here. So our guest for today, she's going to talk about her experience living as a Filipino American and as a Filipino Canadian. So please welcome our guest for today, Arzelle.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Maury, thank you for having me.
Just call me Maury.
Is it okay if I call you Maury?
You exposed my nickname. So to our listeners, that's the special nickname that they gave me, her and her sisters. So why'd you guys give me that nickname again?
I think I'm Angie. You know Angie, she's very weird. She's more out there than me and my other sisters. So she just said it one day, and when she says something like that, it sticks with the rest of us. So that's what we call you.
So as everyone can hear, they've been bullying me since I've met them. So so that's 10 years of bullying. That no, I'm just joking. Do you remember when we met 10 years ago?
I was actually just thinking about that. The first memory I have, it actually didn't even really involve you. It was more of like your mom and your brother. I think we went to your guys' house when we first moved into the same apartment building, and then that's how we got to know each other more as neighbors. But I don't really remember you specifically there.
Really? I remember a different story.
Really?
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting. Okay, what do you remember?
Because 2010, we went to the Philippines, right? Like my family went on vacation to the Philippines. And then...
Oh, I don't remember that.
You don't remember it?
No.
Really?
Because we went to the Philippines as well.
2010?
In 2010. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Like right when we moved to Canada.
Before moving to Canada, right?
No, like, okay, we moved to Canada maybe like July 27th or something. Mm-hmm. And then July 29th, we went to the Philippines.
What? Then when did you guys come back?
Like, we stayed there for a month. So I want to say like right before school started, like end of August.
Okay, because that's what I remember. Because I remember my dad coming back a month before us. So my mom and my brothers, we all stayed and we went back about that time a week before school started in September. And I remember we went home and you guys were there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember that.
At your house?
Yeah, you guys were there. That's the first time I saw you guys. Or first time I met you guys.
Funny.
Yeah. I don't know if that counts as meeting because we didn't really talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think everyone was like, what's going on?
Was Tita Tess there then?
Yeah, she was there.
Oh, no wonder. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's awkward and interesting.
Yeah, that's what I remember for our first meeting, 2010. And then, yeah,
wow.
Here we are now.
I know. 10 years later, 11 years later.
All right, so before we get going, Arzelle, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are right now, like how you got to Vancouver and all that stuff?
Sure, yeah. So I was born in the Philippines as well. And then I moved to Fremont, California with my mom when I was 3. So that was like 1997. And then my dad followed shortly after getting work permits and stuff. And then due to my dad, like, not losing, but I guess his work visa was about to expire, we were forced to find an alternate way of like sustaining our family, I guess. And that was already after 13 years of living in California. So we were forced to move to Canada or immigrate to Canada versus immigrating back to the Philippines. And so that was in 2010, like you mentioned, in July. And it was a very stressful time, but I think everything happens for a reason. So yeah, I think in the end it worked out.
So from California to Vancouver, that's like total opposites.
Yeah, I know.
How was that though? Because I know California is like sunny all year round, and then you come to Vancouver, it's like, you know.
Well, especially because I think the timing of the move was not ideal for me because I was like, it was the middle of high school. So I just finished grade 10 or sophomore year in the States. And then that summer, it was very sudden. We were like, all right, it's time for us to pack our bags to Canada. And I remember like, I think I only had like a month's notice really to just like hang out with my friends the last time and just let them know that I wasn't going to be there for the next summer and even, or for the next school year, sorry. And then even just letting our family friends know as well, it was very emotional. And I think that's why when I came to Canada, it was just a negative experience overall because I didn't want to move. But I think like slowly you just get used to it. And it's just the weather was one thing, like you mentioned. It was a big difference. It definitely contributes to your mood, and you don't notice it when you're always having good weather in California, but I think it also makes you appreciate the sun more. I think that's what I've learned.
Yeah, it's like so gloomy here. I don't know. 80%? No, no, not 80. That may be a bit much. Maybe 60% of the time it's
That
gloomy,
it's
60,
gloomy, yeah.
70% of the time. So it's quite a struggle, especially when you're in that fall winter months.
Yeah. And especially like, I guess just trying to look at the positives and everything, the weather didn't really help. So during that time,
Sorry, how old were you again when you moved from California to Vancouver?
I was 16. I just turned 16.
16. So before moving, you were in high school, and then when you arrived here, you also went to high school?
Yeah, so I started grade 11 here.
Okay. How was that transition? Because I know, California and Vancouver are both in the West Coast, but obviously it's a different country, and there's probably a different culture going on. And, the, what do you call this? The atmosphere is different. So I'm pretty sure some adjustments you kind of had to take. How was that like?
So it was definitely like a big shock in a sense. Um, not For me, it was really just the fact that I didn't have the comfort of friends or like people I knew every day going to school, right? Because you're there for like 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day, and you're just basically starting over. Um, so it was really hard. I feel like that time, like if you had asked me or like had known me more back then, I was definitely more sad. And I think it was like hard for me to really adjust just because of that specific time frame in my life. Like when you're a teenager, everything is like a big deal to you kind of thing. And like a move itself from different countries is already a big change. So I think that it really took me a while to like get comfortable with it. And I think everyone like kind of already had like certain views on Americans, and that's what I was labeled as basically. And obviously I didn't like where I was, and everyone was so like pro Canada, pro Canadian, and I was just like, to be honest, like I was so naive. I didn't even know like Canada was really here. Like I was like, I was so sheltered from the Canadian, anything about Canada really. So I just felt like an outcast, I feel like, when I first moved. Yeah.
I'm just curious. when you say you were labeled, they were looking you as an American. What you could you elaborate a bit more on maybe how they looked at you? Did they?
I think they just thought that I was very, what's the word, like patriotic maybe. And I think, like, yeah, you could say that because I didn't want to be in Canada at the time, but it's not because I had anything against the country. Like I said, I didn't know much about it, but I feel like Canada itself, or like the people here, have a view on, have a certain view on America already, just because they know about it. But when you live there, you kind of, I saw it in a way that people knew about America in a good way, not really in like, in terms of its negative. Like, obviously, I would think of it as like people living in third world countries wanting to come to America, not like Canada. You know what I mean? So I think when they would be like, "Oh, you're American," I think they would think that I was like rude, maybe, or pretentious, like thinking that I was better than everybody else. When in reality, I didn't want to be in that situation. I didn't want to be in a new place.
Yeah, and just similar to our guest Josh in a couple episodes back, he moved from the Philippines to Canada, and just transitioning between high school life there and high school life here. It is a struggle, even though let's America is just down south of Vancouver, right? It's still a big adjustment that you have to make. Yet alone you're in high school, and so how was that? Did you see anything that stood out for you when you started high school? Like let's say you guys do a certain thing in California in high school, but here it's like totally different. Did you have any of those?
Well, luckily, I was able to go to Burnaby Central, which was a semestered school. Um, and luckily, like that was the one I ended up going to because that's how my school in California was. So it was like that brought me a sense of comfort in terms of being able to deal with the school, like the workload, I guess, the school workload. But I know that there are some places here that are doing it like year round, and you kind of have like the A and B days. And I think that's one thing that really stood out for me and that I didn't want to do was to just take on like a bigger course load throughout the whole year because that's not what I was used to. Additionally, the way that you guys do, like, I guess the subjects here is different as well. Like, you guys have your science 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 kind of thing, whereas there they separate it out based on the subjects beneath. So, like, for example, if you have your sciences, you would take a biology class, a physics class, and a chemistry class, and you would learn everything about that, like your science 8, 9, 10 in that one class. So that was one thing that was a big difference for me because then it also reflected what courses, like what my courses in California equated to here on my transcript.
Oh, so like since grade 8, the sciences are broken up already in those branches, as opposed to
So
like just one whole
not
chunk of science.
necessarily like it was so for their high school starts in grade 9. That's one thing. So in grade 9, typically people like you would take um, biology or like some other like introductory course. But once you would take biology, there was no other biology you could take. Like you would have learned everything in biology in that one course.
Oh, I see,
If
I
that
see.
makes sense. Yeah. So there would be like no like bio 9, 10, 11 kind of thing. It would just be like, here's biology. You learn all the things you should know about it for high school.
Oh, okay, okay.
Hmm.
Huh, interesting. I guess in that case, would you say the workload uh was a bit more down in California, or about the
It's
same, you
funny you
think?
say that. I think it's like it would be more like the workload was heavier here. And I think that was like surprising for me as well because the school I came from in California was heavily like academics based. Like we didn't have any sports teams, we didn't have many extracurriculars, and if we did have extracurriculars, it would be academic based. And so I thought that I was already doing like things like a pretty heavy course load in the States. But then when I came here and like I guess divvying up all the subjects like that, it was definitely different. Like I didn't feel like I could grasp the workload as well as I did in California.
What does that mean? Sports, academic based. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
When-
Well, like, so my school was, it was considered like a preparatory school, high school. So it was like it was mainly like you go to school to learn and like sure you could socialize during your breaks and stuff, but we didn't have a sports team for our school like you would here. Like you would, if you wanted to join a sports team, you would join a sports team for another school. Like this is obviously just from my personal like experience and my school that I went to, but it was definitely different. So I think that's why it was a big change for me as well. And a lot of people say like, or expect or ask me like, is high school in the States a lot like what you see in the movies? And I think that high school in Canada more accurately reflects what you see in the movies.
really?
Yeah,
That's really interesting because most of these movies are in the US.
I know. No, I totally get it. It's not even just like, I guess, the academics, but also the layout, like the actual physical layout of the school. I didn't have lockers at my school. So when I saw that we had lockers here, I was really excited. I was like, wow, this is like the movies.
Interesting. I did not know that. That's pretty.
I could just be talking based on my school, but it definitely was a thing. Like we had PE lockers, but not like actually our own lockers that you could decorate or like, put little pictures on the inside and do whatever you want. But
Well, okay. Well, since we're at the topic of high school, were there any? I know you said that your school is heavily on the academics, but has there? Because in the movies, for me anyways, I see prom as a big deal, but then when I when here in high school here, I didn't see it as such a big deal to my classmates here. Like even I didn't go to prom. I didn't go. It's just it wasn't like I didn't find it interesting. And do you see that difference between the perception of the students in prom in here versus in California?
well, unfortunately, I didn't get to go to prom in the States, but like knowing or seeing my friends go just through like social media and the pictures and stuff, it definitely looked more exciting. I think it appealed or it portrayed itself as just like a big party for you and your friends. And here, like I guess it was reserved particularly for grad, right? Like after grade 12, you have your ceremony and then you have your prom or whatever. And I think it's pretty similar in the sense that, yeah, you're celebrating graduation, but there they have like different kinds of prom and dances as well, right? There's like homecoming, there's junior prom, senior prom, and usually those are more like closely revolving the sporting events as well. So like if there was like football, then it would be related, like homecoming would be related to that sport in particular. And like I said, we didn't have sports teams, so I can't even really comment on it too much, but that was my understanding of the other high schools that were around and the friends that I had going to the other high schools. That's what they would mention. And then obviously you would vote for people as like prom queen or something. And it's really just like a social status party.
What? Sorry. What's homecoming? Like I've
So
I've
it's
I've
another
heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
I feel like I can't even give you an accurate definition because I haven't gone either. But from what I understand, it's just like another dance, usually at the beginning of the year, so that everyone can like socialize again. But it is like an excuse to dress up and an excuse to go out and like dance with your friends and have a date, things like that. Um, but yeah, usually I know for those ones, there would be like a homecoming queen or king or something that gets elected. And to be honest, I don't know what the basis of election is for those. But it seems like it's a social event for sure for students. So that's all I know.
So you were grade 11 then, and I believe we graduated the same year, 2012. We graduated high school. So yeah, Um, you've lived most of your adult life here in Canada. Then you've lived before 2010 in the States. Is there anything that really stood out to you in like the culture there in the US versus the culture here in Canada?
I mean, in terms of the culture, when I think about that, I think about the people that I meet or the people that, we see on a day-to-day basis, or just like um, the different ethnicities that we encounter, I guess. For sure, there was a big difference in terms of the culture shock. Like back in California, I can't. Used to live in Sacramento, but even Sacramento, it was a heavy population with like Latin Americans or Spanish Mexican people, as well as African Americans, and obviously some Filipinos and other cultures as well. But then I come here, it's heavily Asian or South Asian people. And I think the only thing that was like the biggest change in that was it reflected like the different cuisines that you could have, or like the different supermarkets that were available here to you. Like there, it was just your typical like um, Safeway or something like Save-On, where it was very limited in terms of the different products that you could buy based on the different ethnicities around, I guess, in the neighborhood. Whereas here, like we have TNT or like other smaller supermarkets that heavily focus on just that culture. So that was one thing that I saw was really different. And I think it also has to do with the neighborhood that we used to live in and the neighborhood I live in now. Previously, I would consider it like very suburban. So obviously your options are limited in the suburbs.
Do you think people are friendlier? Because that's the label that most Canadians get, or even the whole country, Canada, says the friendliest country. Did you see that when you moved here?
I would say like yes and no. Obviously, I feel like a lot of people like to be to themselves. Um, but obviously the friends that we met or that we were introduced to were through a lot of our family that was already here. So my dad's sister. So that's how we met you guys, I feel like, or just really um, being Filipino. I feel like that automatically just connects you to the people of your country, And if we hadn't met through Tita Tess, I feel like we would have just met because of our proximity in terms of like you guys being just down the hall. But I definitely feel like in school and stuff, people aren't that friendly. Like they're not just willing to strike up a conversation with you. But I think that's the same for the States as well. But when I was in high school, for sure, I thought it was less clicky. Like here, it was really hard for me to see other, like people from other like friend groups or cliques, you would say, socialize with other people in a different friend group. Whereas there, I felt like I did have my core friend group, but I was still able to like, I guess, socialize with people in other cliques, and I didn't feel like they didn't want me there, or I still felt welcome.
Yeah, I can see how big of an adjustment that had to be, like with that move, especially with the age you were in, 16, right? 16.
Yeah.
So that's very very tough, and that's a really big adjustment because obviously before you left, and even you said earlier, yet you got you only had a month to say goodbye to everyone pretty much, right? And it was pretty much an abrupt move. So that adds up too with the stress, and yeah, it's
I feel like it makes you a stronger person.
it definitely does because I guess you learn more about yourself, and yeah. You mentioned the Filipinos in here, you're able to connect with the Filipino connection. There's obviously more Filipinos down in the US compared to Canada, I believe, and especially in California compared to like here in BC. Can you compare the I guess the type of Filipino? I don't know how to put this. Like
Like the people that I would socialize with, I guess, or
No,
like.
just what do you call this? Like the way they interact. That like, can you compare how the Filipinos here interact with other Filipinos versus how Filipinos
Mhm.
there react to other Filipinos?
Yeah, I think you make a point in the fact that obviously there are more Filipinos in California than here. And I think that really contributes to like the Filipino community that you are surrounded with. Because when we were in the States, I feel like we were definitely part of more Filipino groups. So there was like one Filipino group that we had that was related to the Filipinos that we grew up with actually in the Philippines, or that my parents grew up in the Philippines. So it was called, the society was like Northern California Society of San Antonio, which was the city that, or the province or neighborhood that my parents were from.
Oh,
So I
San
feel like
Antonio, Philippines, right?
San Antonio, Zambales, in the Philippines, yes. So yeah, that we had like an association in just Northern California for all of those people that came from San Antonio to Northern California. And then there was also one in Southern California, which is basically called the same thing, SoCal, but Association of San Antonians. And so I felt like that's how we were really able to meet and just like have my parents reconnect with people that they used to grow up with or that they knew in the Philippines and just, share how their lives are doing now. Um, Additionally, there was like another group that we had that was like a Bible study group that it wasn't necessarily like just exclusive to Filipinos, but it was started mainly by Filipinos. And then that's how we were able to like expand that social aspect of our lives. Like we were able to just have people that we were comfortable with being Filipinos be in every kind of aspect of our life. So, and I think that it's different here because like personally right now I don't have that connection with a Filipino group. Like I do have Filipino friends and like you guys, like I know of Filipino people, but to be in a primarily Filipino based like social group, I feel like that's what is lacking for me here.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like in high school, obviously, I had a big Filipino circle with my friends and all that. But after graduating, everyone just kind of did their own thing. Okay, NorCal, SoCal. Is there a difference between being a Filipino in Northern California versus in Southern California?
It's hard to say. Like I feel like just in general, there is like a rival between NorCal and SoCal, but I don't know why. Like the culture is, to me is pretty similar. It's just a lot of like the lingo, I guess, that we use, like slang. But like we have cousins in SoCal, and obviously they make it seem like, oh, SoCal is a better place to live, blah blah blah. But I think like each place has its pros. Like I think California is a really like diverse place to live. Um, in terms of the rivalry, all I really saw was the lingo, to be honest, and that apparently our slang is like less updated than theirs. That's pretty much it. But then like later on we'll still use the same slang, so it doesn't really matter.
And it's different, right? The lingo there is different from the slang there is different from here.
Exactly. So like they'll know for sure if you use a certain word that you're from NorCal versus if they use a certain word, they're from SoCal.
So when you moved here, did you have any misconceptions about Canada?
Oh my gosh. I'm dreading this question. I think it's because like I'm gonna be so honest, I was really naive and not well educated on Canada that I didn't know much about it at all. Like I just knew that my cousins were from here and like that it was above us on the map, and that was pretty much it. That's all I knew. Like I didn't really think of it as um be like it's gonna sound so bad. I just didn't think about it. I didn't know about Canada at all, and I think when I moved here or when my friends started like knew that I was moving here, that's when these misconceptions came about, I guess. They were saying things like, oh, are you going to live in an igloo? Are you going to be an Eskimo? Just things like that. But it wasn't anything serious, So,
Yeah, because the reason I asked is because when I was in I believe Las Vegas or LA about 2017, I took an Uber and we were talking to the Uber driver and he's like, "Hey, where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from Canada." Then he was like, "Oh, is it true you guys live in igloos?" I'm like, "What?" You do know it rains 60 to 70% of the time in Vancouver. And then one more thing he asked was, "Do you guys all speak French?" I'm like, "No." I wish I spoke French.
yeah. See, that's something I didn't know either. The only other thing that people would ask me is like, oh, do you see a moose in your backyard every day?
I would love to see a
That's
moose.
pretty much it. I know, I haven't seen one yet in real life either, so.
I've never seen one, so,
Yeah.
I would love to see one. And I saw pictures, they're huge.
I know. I feel like I'd be scared if I actually saw one in real life, though.
Speaking of that, then, do you see yourself more as an American or a Canadian?
Wow, what a question, Maury. Oh my gosh.
Be careful how you answer.
I honestly think I'm 50-50. Like, I know, it's a political answer. I just feel like, I don't know, I can see myself really being happy in either place. And, it's not just the environment, right? Or it's not just like your community. It's really just like the people that you like to spend your time with. And as you know, like half my family is in California right now. It's just me and my dad here. And additionally, my boyfriend is in California. So, like, yes, I'm very comfortable here. I like being here. Like, I'm very grateful to be in Canada. And I have adjusted, well enough to start my life here or to continue my life here. But it's really just the people in my heart that's pulling me back to California.
Okay, I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna make this question, bring it up to the next level.
What? Oh my
let's
gosh,
say,
no!
Let's say something happens, and then you gotta choose. Where would you go to? The U.S. or Canada? Let's say there's a crisis going on. Just theoretically, hopefully this doesn't happen, but let's say there's a big crisis going on and you can only choose one. You can only choose one country where you would go. Will you choose to stay in the US or Canada?
Are the circumstances the same? Is my family still there?
Yes. Yes.
Circumstances are exactly the same?
Yes.
Then I would choose to go to the US.
Oh, that made it too easy. Okay, let's say no. No family.
What?
No family involved. Let's say no family involved.
Oh my gosh. Okay, if it's purely just me
and why?
feelings,
You gotta answer why.
Okay, if it's purely just like me and my feelings and I guess just like for the betterment of myself, I think I would choose to stay here because I feel like I'm more comfortable here. I have settled here, like in terms of my career, and just like my friends are. I'm more like well rooted here now. I feel like so. I feel like going back to the States will also be another huge adjustment if I'm just thinking about myself, and I don't think I'm ready to do that by myself.
All right, so you're our Canadian. You have passed the test.
I mean, I am Canadian. I am not an American. So
oh, you're not American?
I only have Canadian citizenship.
Oh, I thought you were dual all this time.
No, my sisters are, but not me, because I was born in the Philippines.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, so it's just my sisters that are full on, like, citizens, like dual citizens, but I guess you can say I'm a dual citizen of the Philippines.
Oh, I didn't know that. I actually thought you were, because I know they're dual, your sisters, so I thought you were dual too.
No, not me. I'm the black sheep.
Oh. Okay, let's do some fun questions, I guess.
Oh boy.
let's do a best of both worlds kind of thing. If you could name three
Okay.
things from the U.S. and three things from Canada.
Hmm. Dang, that's hard. Um, I think for America, it would be the different places that you can travel, like the different, um, I guess, like most people, like places people really want to visit, right? Like New York or, San Francisco,
Well, you got Calgary.
places
What are
like
you talking
Florida.
about?
Right, right. Tell me what there is to do in Calgary, Maury. Whereas, like, yeah, here I feel like, we have the two main cities, like Vancouver and Toronto, and like I know there are a bunch of like really nice places to visit in between as well, but I just feel like the travel options are better in the US. Another thing I would take is In-N-Out, the fast
In and
food.
out. That's only in California, right?
It is. I think it's mostly in the West Coast. They've definitely branched out of California, but I don't think there are any on the East Coast.
What burger can you compare In and Out to?
You can't.
What? What's the closest? What's the closest?
You literally can't. It's so different, but it's so good. And I like people say Shake Shack and In-N-Out are like the two main places, but I feel like you can't even compare the burgers. They're so like In-N-Out is just significantly better.
Really? Like any burger
Yeah.
here? Nothing?
Nothing.
Wow.
I'm telling you. Have you tried it?
I've tried it. Yeah. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Are you able to compare?
Well, no, because I would need it right in front of me, and I would need both
Right, right.
burgers in front of me to actually try it. Look at you.
Turning the questions around. The tables
Turning
have
the
turned.
table. All right, so In and Out.
Okay. And then another thing. Oh my God, I don't know. Can it just be 2 and 2? Give me a sec. Yeah, no, dude, it's just two
Just
and
two.
two. I think so.
Well, I agree with the first one. I'm mixed with the first one. Obviously, there's a lot of beautiful sites here in Canada, but the problem is you gotta travel. Like you gotta go to these spots, and it's like hours of driving or something like that.
Exactly. Because you guys only have like however many provinces like straight across, right? So it's a drive for sure just to get to the next place. Whereas when we were in California, we could get to Nevada or like Tahoe in 2 hours, you know?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think what you're trying to say is it's more accessible these
The
sites. Yeah.
places, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, just two? Are you sure? Just two?
I think so. But I'm trying to think for Canada now.
Okay. Okay.
So one would probably be the transit system, like just here in Vancouver
Oh,
specifically.
really?
Yeah. Why? Is
Well,
this not good?
everyone has a lot of mixed feelings with the transit system here.
Really? I thought everyone really liked it, and I personally
I
really
guess it
like it.
depends
I feel
on
like
who you talk to.
right,
For me,
right.
I have no problem at all with the transit system, but I know there are some people who do, and yeah, it depends on who you ask, I would say.
Right. I guess because they're like in California, we did have it, but it was mostly just buses, and no one really took
And
them.
transit traffic is really crazy in California, right?
Yeah, that's another thing. That's a whole nother story.
You've obviously you've been to the Philippines. Is it comparable? This is kind of because everyone in the Philippines would say Philippines has the worst traffic of all, but California is really bad too.
It is pretty bad, and it's mostly like the highways, to be honest. Like that's like your main route usually. So I think that it's only that's pretty bad, but I think in the it is worse in the Philippines because even if you're not on the highway, it's bad. Yeah.
All right, so TransLink or Transit, not
Transit,
TransLink.
yeah, transit. And then the other thing would be the sushi.
Sushi.
Vancouver has really fresh sushi. Yeah. and I love it so much. I think like just moving here really introduced me to sushi because I was really closed off on it when I was living there. And just because I was younger as well, I just didn't like the idea of raw fish. But then when I moved here, it was so good.
What's your go?
I eat it all the time.
What's your go-to? What's your go-to restaurant?
Okay, so it used to be Sushi Garden, but now it's Sushimoto.
Where's that?
It's still by Edmonds. It's really good. It's a smaller place, but it's still like, oh my God, no, can I change? It's Greenleaf.
Greenleaf? What?
Greenleaf sushi. Oh my goodness, it's so good. They specialize in the aburi sushi, you know?
Okay, okay. So sushi. Oh, transit and sushi. You got a third one?
For Canada, honestly, I feel like I should say healthcare, but personally, I wasn't affected by the healthcare system in the US or Canada. So
No poutine?
I'm not a fan.
What? No.
I'm not a fan. I'm sorry.
What? No.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Oh.
It's all right.
Oh, we gotta end the episode short today. No. To our listeners who may not know what poutine is, it's a dish that's I think only available here in Canada. It's fries with gravy and cheese curds. And it's really good. Really good. I don't know what Arzelle is talking about right now.
False advertising.
You sure you don't have a third one for the US?
For the US, okay, let me think again. No, dude.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Really?
Maybe that things were cheaper in a sense.
Things were cheaper. Okay, okay. The currency? You'll bring the currency?
Yeah, that and just like in general, I feel like things were cheaper, especially when when the time I moved here, it was par, like the dollar was basically 1 to 1, and it was still cheaper to buy things in the US, and that's when Canadians were more willing to go to the US to shop.
Yeah, especially here in BC, where our tax here is pretty,
Exactly.
12%.
Yeah.
All right, nice. So before we wrap up the show, I know I asked you some questions already, like these trivia questions, but I have these 3 questions that I usually ask our guests, and I'm pretty sure you've heard of them from listening to the other episodes. First would be, what would be your all-time favorite OPM song?
Okay, first of all, can you tell me exactly what does OPM stand for?
OPM stands for original Filipino music. So it's pretty much an umbrella of all songs created by artists in the Philippines. Yeah.
Okay. All time?
Yeah.
All time. Wow, I feel like there are some pretty good ones though.
Or to make it easier, what's your go-to OPM song in the karaoke?
Oh my gosh. Okay, it's probably one by Aegis.
Okay.
It's ones that me and my sisters like really belt in the car. Like we will sing like really loud in the car too. But I can't remember the actual title. I want to say it's called like or something.
Yeah, why am I not surprised to hear that?
Why?
Because it's true, you guys really pick that song when it's karaoke time.
Yes.
Luha? Really?
Okay, if
okay, why don't you sing it?
That's too. No, I'm not gonna sing it, Maury. What the? The other song that I really like is by who's it? Ray Valera, the White Hair song.
Oh, what? Wilbur just mentioned that from our last episode, actually.
Ew! What a copycat! That's my favorite song.
He says he sings it to you. Aww.
Oh my God! Can we not talk about this right now?
This is going on the episode. I'm not cutting this out.
No. But that is another one of my favorite songs. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say both of those, just because the connection to my sisters and then the connection to Wilbur.
Okay. All right, so let's go to the next question. This could be any genre, I guess. Do you have a movie or a TV show recommendation for our listeners? Doesn't have to be a Filipino movie or a Filipino TV show. It could be anything, even anime. If you're into anime.
It would be The Queen's Gambit
Oh, the one on Netflix.
on Netflix. Yes.
What is that about? I've been hearing stuff about it, but
It's so good. So it's about chess, and I previously was never interested in chess, nor did I know how to play chess. But that show just motivated me to learn chess, and now I play chess.
oh, really?
Yeah. It's really like, it's definitely, I feel like it was like a coming of age story as well. But just like the cinematography of it and the way that they filmed it and the editing and the lighting and everything just made it really interesting. Like I finished it in a day.
How many seasons are there?
It's only one season. It's a limited series.
Oh, okay.
So it feels like a really long movie.
So it's limited series, so it won't have a sequel or the next.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
At least I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, all right. So last question. Being the podcast called the Lifetimes Podcast, which time period in any time in the world, could be 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, which time period would you want to visit as a spectator or to live in?
Oh wow. I guess my answer to that would be very
It could be anywhere.
uh,
It doesn't have to be in the Philippines. It could be like, you want to see
yeah.
the pyramids or something, or you want to see the Great Wall be built or something like that.
Okay, mine's gonna sound very selfish. It's gonna be a very selfish answer, but it would just be to visit the time when my grandparents were young. Maybe just to see. So that would be like what, 1950s, 1960s, maybe? Yeah, 1950s or 60s. Just to see what their life was like and how they started their families, I guess. I'm really interested, like, because my grandpa, yeah, my mom's dad just passed away this last year. And so just like when I was able to see their pictures of like their wedding, which I've never seen before, like they were still in black and white, and it just seemed like a whole another time, which it was obviously, but it just seemed really interesting to see how young they were, but still so grown up and like responsible and starting like a new family. Where it's like I feel like now in this generation, like, me and you were like 26 years old and we're here. But I feel like it's a bigger pressure to start a family, I guess. And it just doesn't seem like something that I can achieve at such a young age. So I just want to see what it would be like in their shoes, I guess.
Yeah, and the 50s, 60s, that's like a decade after the Japanese occupation of the Philippines. So that would be like a tough time. So it'll be nice to see what life was like then. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's all our trivia questions. Thank you so much for sharing with us your story and experience living as a Filipino American and Filipino Canadian. So thank you so much for your time, Arzelle. And yeah, I really appreciate you being here on the show, guesting on the show. I know our time of this recording is kind of getting late, but you still took the time. So thank you so much for just giving me this hour of your time.
Of course, it was fun. It was definitely fun. I feel like it's hard talking about yourself sometimes, but no, I liked it.
All right, so I hope everyone enjoyed that show. And if you haven't yet, I encourage everyone to give us a follow on Instagram at the Lifetimes Podcast, and make sure to subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform that you're using: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and soon it will be up on YouTube. And if you like the show or any of the other shows, any of the other episodes, I encourage everyone to please give it a share so that we can have more people listening to these excellent stories, and we can just share these stories with each other, get these conversations going, and learn about the other Filipinos in the different walks of life. See you in the next episode, and bye for now.